knows exactly what to do to subdue you. If a person knows what you like, they know how to kill you. Think about that. If a person knows what you like, they know how to kill you. They know what we like, so they know how to kill us. And there's always blacks that will say, because I'll be like, okay, well, what did he do about, the situation in Baltimore, Freddie Gray? Freddie Gray was in Baltimore, and that's like 40 minutes away from D.C. He didn't even come, he could have helicoptered his ass over there, right? What did he do? But he had something to say when the riots happened. They thugs. So blacks are thugs, but their lives are not worth nothing. Right? What does that say? What that should be is at least a wake-up call to say, it's time for me to stop waiting on my oppressor to give me my salvation. That's all I need to say. I didn't say become this or join that. I said, it's time for me to wake up and stop giving my salvation over to my oppressor. Bottom line. So when we deal with those those that we call Illuminati, because in reality, we are the real illuminated ones, as the people of the black light. You understand? So that's what we need to see. We need to understand who the names are. And next slide. And name the names. Adam Whiteside. Okay, he came in with what we call the witchcraft side of it. And the fourth slide we'll go into is Madame Blavatsky, who also brought in the witchcraft part. And you'll find out why witchcraft why they felt that was needed at some point in the society, all over the world. Because you gotta realize is that these are families. Any movement that was extremely successful signified a group of an amount of families. If you look, just think about it. When we go back to Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was just a group of black men that at some point was hustling. And their hustle became businesses. They were like, from the 20s, from 1915 to the 1920s, 1925s, black men were running numbers like crazy, but they were creating means to make money for themselves. These are black men hustling to make a whole city, a black city. But these are families who came together to make these cities. So when you look at the Illuminati, you're looking at families that came together. Next slide. Mayor Amschel Rothschild. Name the names. Okay? In his mind, he had an idea to control the world's banks. So we need to control the money. We don't need a social movement. We don't need a group of people who feels that everybody can benefit. We need to make sure that our banks, or the banks period, is under the control of our people. You understand? And just think about this for a second. We gotta go back in our minds, go back in our slides, and just think. Who was the one that was controlling the slave trade as I established? The Jews, right? How are they able to control the world's money if they weren't already, if they did not, right? If they did not already have money in their pockets, how is he able to control banks? So the banks that he's trying to control was already holding slave money off the backs of us. That's a dot that's connected in your mind subconsciously. All right, next slide. So Madame Helena P. von Hahn, or Madame Blavatsky, also brought in the witchcraft part. So she would be considered to be the fourth, quad group of what we call the Illuminati or the Blue Blood Society. And it's actually a bookstore in Houston that has an altar to Madame Blavatsky. It has books, photos, everything. And it's in the back. There's a whole altar dedicated to Madame Blavatsky. Because the thing is that what they wanted to do is, they wanted to control the minds of our people based upon what we listen to, music specifically. And because when they came into Africa, they saw us in our purest form. They saw us with our drums, they saw us singing, they saw us dancing. And what is that? That's frequency, right? So when a group of people is on the same rhythm, they are moving to the same frequency in unison. So when you have a power that is a foundation of what's funny is that we have our own witch doctors and what we call witches that's in Africa, but it wasn't for this purpose. You understand? You know, we can go into New Orleans and find witch doctors and witches that were African, but they would put a root on somebody. Most of the time it was on crackers. As with them, they wanted to control the minds of the people and have them working off of a certain frequency. And I wanted to, it's not in the slide, but I wanted to show this, I wanted to say this. Go online at some point, YouTube specifically, and look up a man named John Todd Collins. John Todd Collins. The reason why I said look up John Todd Collins specifically is because he was someone who left the round table. I would say round table. He left the round table and basically decided to become born-again Christian because he saw things in there that he was like, wow, this is like 1940s or 50s, but this was like in the 80s and 90s when he began to make these recordings. And in the recordings, he's basically saying to the people, what they decided to do, if you remember, there was a movie that came out called Cadillac. It was called Cadillac Records. All right, Cadillac Records, right. And who was in that movie? Mozart was playing Chuck Berry, right? Chuck Berry, and you got who? Mozart playing Chuck Berry. Then you had, you know, the one our brother who was constantly saying, they took rock and roll from me. I started this thing. Little Richard, right? What John Todd Collins made a confession in saying is that what they decided to do, their main plan in taking music from black people was they wanted to begin to do seances over the masters so they can control you within the music. And you can be listening to a Temptations and still get a certain frequency within the music. That's why one of the main things my father kept saying years ago was that y'all gotta go independent. This ain't just about a money thing, this is a frequency thing. You understand? So he wanted, that's why MK Ultra, MK Delta is very important. Y'all look up MK Ultra, MK Delta. The frequency of the music began to become tainted at some point. So what did we decide to do? We created our own music, our own brands. You got African-centered music. You had reggae, which is still African-centered because it starts from the drum, right? And that music.
You know what's so crazy? They're trying to switch up reggae now. They're trying to call it tropical house.
Yeah.
This is a recent, a magazine, an online magazine, recently did that under Rihanna's name.
Nah, I see that.
She signed.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And that's not, you know. So that says a lot about what they're doing with the culture. You know, you go back to the source, and we originated these things, and then as it, of course, transitioned into higher perspective, into a wider media, they're gonna kind of reshape it.
Yeah, that's
Look
what
at
they're
hip-hop.
doing now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a totally different frequency.
And that frequency is it doesn't change. You know what I mean? And it kind of just works. We're so used to it, but people are so lost in I'm in audio engineering school, you know what I'm saying?
So you know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
great.
Let me,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but if you look at reggae, see, most of our music is founded out of oppression, in a fight towards that oppression. Like look at reggae. Reggae was founded out of oppression. They were fighting a situation. What's the brother's name? I think it was his last name was Planter. That started the Luciferian organization. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was. Thank you. And the music itself, reggae, is African because any music that starts from the drum first.
Mortimer, right?
Mortimer Planter. Thank you, brother. And any music that starts from the drum first is African in origin. So when you look at hip hop and you look at the fact that it started is as well, because I always say look up a documentary. I forgot the name, but it goes into the gangs in New York that was started in Harlem. And then it ends with Africa Bambaataa coming out of the Black Spades. And then Black Spades end up becoming Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation, right? But what did in hip hop itself, as well as reggae, was started from oppressed Africans. Reggae in what? The islands, and hip hop in America. So when you're going into hip hop and you're looking at specific artists, 9 artists out of 10 from at least the early to early 80s up until like 93, they were all artists coming out of 5% Nation, RBG, Ansar Allah, Nation Islam, Gods and Earths. You understand? So in their minds, it was like, we got to change the vibration of the people through the music. And that drum pattern was started first. You understand? So now, and we fast forward to a point where the Jews now control what's being distributed and who owns the masters. And so when you do not own your masters, you have no idea who's doing what to the masters. Why do you think Michael Jackson was killed? Sam Cooke. Matter of fact, Michael Jackson was like, I'm gonna buy your masters for you and give them to you. You know what I'm saying? Little Richard. He told Little Richard, I'm gonna buy your masters and give them to you. Because you deserve your masters, brother. You started this genre that they now making money off of, and you deserve your masters. But what did Michael Jackson do? Michael Jackson ended up buying half of Sony. First of all, the Jews are not going to allow you to share wealth with them. The whole point of it is that I can let them do whatever they want. They just can't share no wealth with me. Right? I can't allow, Bill Cosby can make a Cosby show, right? But I'm not going to allow him to buy a whole network. You know what I'm saying? Because he's trying to buy it from the Jews. And then we'll find out of course, we know who started the NBC network. But the whole point of it is that I can't allow them to keep money, especially in the entertainment world where I'm supposed to control the images. I'm supposed to control the frequency. You understand? Because they know within frequency, there's specific doorways. Because again, drum patterns create doorways that your ancestors can now go through you. That's the point of it. But when they can control the doorway, they can use their ancestors and have them working through you. Next slide. Everyone know who this is? Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes. Everybody know who Cecil Rhodes is? Cecil Rhodes was a man, we're excited, was a cracker, an old man, a cracker, who went into Africa and began to colonize for diamonds. He started the beers, right? That's why I always say, whenever you go into beers, do this. going on with like the Bears. That's it. That's all you're doing good. Because they go in and y'all realize the Rothschild family, they were the ones that gave him the profit and the weapons to start the colonization of Africa. Again, all these names are connected to each other. These are groups and families that are saying we need to control the resources, not just the people, but the people's resources for what they decide to do and how they are benefiting and how they're able to survive. Because again, our mindset is not bent on who has the most of something. Our mindset is based on ma'at and order, justice. And that's reality. See, but with them, they are natural savages. They work on conquering people. Sexually, emotionally, physically, and economically. They've been doing this for 6,000 years, and we keep making excuses for them. At some point, you're going to run out of excuses. I never had them because I knew who the nation was years ago. So you have, you got the notes, works cited, so you can look up who this cracker is, because at the end of the day, we now can get a foundation for when they began to start coming in after enslaving the people and taking their resources. Next slide. And this is giving further and further information about how, as a matter of fact, I want to read this to you. Rose wanted to expand the British Empire because he believed that the Anglo-Saxon race was destined to greatness. In his last will and testament, Rose said of the British, "I contend that we are the first race in the world, and that the more of the world we inhabit, the better it is for the human race." Just fancy it. Just fancy those parts that are at present inhabited by the most despicable, that's you, despicable specimens of human being. What an alteration there would be if they were brought under Anglo-Saxon influence. Look again at the extra employment of new country added to our dominion gives. This is out of his word. This is out of his mouth. You got a question?
Yeah. Well, I have something like a statement question. It pertains to exactly this. It's the new argument where the new ism, schism, the new damn lie, is that white people came out of Africa too. I heard on the radio, actually, a white woman saying, I had this argument with a Negro professor. And well, when I asked him where was the bones in the dirt, he shut up. Because there ain't no bones in the dirt, ain't no pottery in the dirt. But they claiming now on the radio, a couple months back, maybe last year, I hear some white lady, which black people say the same thing. Oh, white people from Africa too. No, I got another story about that. But right now, what I'm saying about this is what the lady on the radio, NPR or something, I'm talking about a book. So she goes, we left Africa before, we left Africa, went to Europe so that we could come back to save Africa. This is how they're trying to twist this now.
Crack logic.
Right, and Negro is trying to say the same stupidity. Oh, they left Africa and lost their lips, lost their nose. And they didn't know how to get back to Africa when it got cold.
The climatology theory.
When it get cold like this, you won't know how to get back to the top.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just said that advanced that, you had to lose the lips and the hair, and when you went into Europe, it was so cold that you had to
That's impossible. That's impossible.
Okay, because first of all, you're going to stay a little bit on this just for a second. Right, I see, yeah, it's just cracker logic, that's what they do. Their logic and ideology is based on lies. Because we black folks love lies, so anytime a white man says something, you're going to believe what he says because we like lies anyway. So what's funny about white people is, just for a second, if you came from black people, why aren't you producing black children? Right? I mean, we produce everything based upon our mixture, right? But if you produce if you came from Africa, produce an African.
They only have to identify as black now.
Right, of course. See, anyone, see what they'll say is that everything comes from the mitochondria Eve, right? The mitochondria Eve. That doesn't prove that you came from her. That says that everyone came out of what they say the bones of Lucy in Ethiopia, mitochondria Eve. They say that says that Africans came from there. But no, according to your history that they teach, you came out of a Dravidian albino that did not inhabit Africa. And that group wasn't even called at that point Dravidians, they were called chimpanzees. And they evolved into Neanderthals. So your top of the food chain was a Neanderthal in the first place. So in reality, what you are destined to be really is what you are because they're still technically evolving. So again, why do you still produce recessive genes if you are Africans? Because Africans naturally produce a lot of children. Now, we produce less because of what we're going through now in the wilderness of North America and diseases all over the place, right? But again, if you are an African naturally, you should be able to produce the same thing that I'm giving off. That's why you need melatonin. Because Africans produce melatonin naturally, right? You produce serotonin when you're walking around in the day, and then you produce melatonin in the night because it's necessary because your melanin needs to rejuvenate itself, okay? And again, what was the need? Because truthfully, black people don't even need melatonin. Because melatonin is not for you. Melatonin is for them. It's artificial melanin. So when you see, you go into different, you go into Walmart, you go into drugstores, and you see melatonin, you're like, wow, melatonin. And you're not even thinking that that's your ass on the shelf. Right? What does vitamin B do? Vitamin B also strengthens melanin. Okay? What does vitamin D do? Just for a minute. What is vitamin D, according to them, deals with also an abundance of climatology that they say is needed to create melanin. That if you are in a certain area that the climatology is extremely strong or is extremely hot, then you get darker. If you go below the equator, then that's because you're in an area that is less sun, then you begin to become white. Okay, if that is the case, that's what I always ask. Why aren't you producing black children? Why do you need to go and get and adopt black children so you can infuse with melanoid people? I mean, what's your point? What is Joe Lee's point? I mean, this is part of the Luciferian conspiracy, believe it or not, because genocide is amongst our people. And the reality is, what they need to do, because between the year 2040 and 2050, they're going to be the racial minority on the planet. This is on their websites. I'm going to give you all another website. Name the websites. Another website you got to look up is onthestormfront.com. Onthestormfront.com. And onthestormfront.com, they have information about them being extremely scared that niggers are going to dominate the world. They are like, God damn it, what am I going to do? Because especially in the United States, onthestormfront.com. That's what they call a white supremacist website. And, yeah. And on that website, they have different blogs. I go on there, see, I study the enemy. I don't play around like that. I don't just read, Dr. Ben, no. I go on there and I look up what they say and what they're planning on doing. That's what you gotta go into. What they're saying and what they're planning on doing, because on those blog sites, they're letting you know, like, okay, yo, all right, Billy, I'm gonna meet you at the gun show in the range, and we're gonna shoot at that nigger on the wall, and you see that? You see, I mean, that's what they do. They aim at you because they know what you're gonna do. Or get on your knees and hopefully, a white guy gonna come get you and scoop you up and take you to white heaven. That's what black people do. Exactly. That's what religion's for. And so that's the whole point of it, is that I ask you, that's why I say to people that come to me with that nonsense of climatology crap, first of all, if that also is the case, before I go back to this, if that also is the case, why is it that there's black people in the Netherlands, in Greenland, in North and South Pole, in Antarctica that look just as dark as us in this room? They never lost their melanin. They didn't turn into Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise and George Bush and now I'm white. See, I didn't need the melanin in Antarctica because it wasn't needed. Always pay attention to someone that actually says that you don't need melanin in certain climates. Because if I'm in, let's say, North Pole, right? They'll say North Pole, at that point, you need an abundance of vitamin D. If that's the case, you also have whites who can't stand cold weather either. They're gonna get even whiter, they're gonna just evaporate. No, you have Africans that produce a certain amount because melanin is in every organ in the body. The same thing that is contained in the sun is the same thing that is contained in you. So guess what? What you have, what you need, what you already have. So any other vitamin or nutrient is something that you are giving yourself in abundance of. So that's why they need all these different ingredients, and you got these crackers going to these witch doctors, and they write down all these different herbs and everything so they can make their medication. Because they're the ones that need it. That's why they came on the planet on a minus birth rate. Luciferian conspiracy. They came on the planet on a minus birth rate. That's why the thing is, what creates a group of people is the amount of people that is produced from the family. If the family is barely having children, you're not really a race. You're not really a family, you're just a group of people. What makes you a family is the children you produce. Whites are not producing enough children to be considered to be a race. I mean, they're still animals to me, I'm just saying. That's reality, and they know this. That's why they do whatever they can that at some point, because they don't produce enough melanin in their organs to survive, what they